What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Disney live-action film, The Lion King. The Lion King is the most recent outing by Disney to remake all of their classic animated films into live-action movies and to make sure that they hold on to those sweet, sweet copyrights for a lot longer than they're supposed to. This film is the retelling of the legendary Lion King film that came out back in the 90s and is widely considered one of the greatest Disney films ever. This rendition is directed by Jon Favreau of Iron Man fame and Chef and so many other things. He's a massively, massively talented man. He also did the live-action rendition of The Jungle Book for Disney. The film stars Donald Glover, Beyoncé, Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, and a whole bunch of other very famous people. This movie's cast is honestly extremely impressive. And it tells the story of the Lion King. A young prince is born to the king of Pride Rock, Mufasa, and when Mufasa tragically dies, he is then sort of banished out of the lands to be raised and then have to make decisions about who he wants to be when he grows up. Now I'm going to be honest with you, walking into this after how bad Aladdin was. I was a little worried that Disney maybe had greenlit another live-action movie and didn't watch over it enough, and it got turned into something not very good. However, I can happily say that because I think Jon Favreau was behind this film, they really let him take the reins on it, and this very much so feels like The Lion King, which is exactly what it is supposed to feel like. The story has very few drastic changes made to it. There's the occasional small difference here or there in terms of the story, but they are nothing that drastically affects what you're watching. All of the CGI for the animals and the environments is absolutely fantastic. It is insanely impressive how far digital animation has come in just 20 years, to the point where there are scenes in this film that I feel you could show to someone and tell them this is like documentary footage from planet Earth, and there's a pretty decent chance that if they didn't look close enough, they would believe you, because some of the shots in this film are just insanely impressive in terms of how real they look. And I also have to give a lot of credit to Jon Favreau. I really think he's one of the most talented men working in Hollywood right now, whether he's making a small indie film like Chef or a big budget thing like Iron Man, or when he did The Jungle Book for Disney as well. I really think that everyone is starting to realize in Hollywood that if you give Favreau the reins to something, there's a pretty good shot that he's gonna make that thing very, very good. Now, the cast of this film I feel like is obviously the biggest difference compared to the old one. As I said, the story of this film is pretty much the same story as the original Lion King. It looks gorgeous, which is very important, but the biggest change here is going to be the script differences and these characters. And I think that all of the voice cast does a fairly good job. I have a couple nitpicky things that I'll get to later, but overall I really enjoyed everyone. I think Donald Glover as Simba was very good. Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar was shockingly brilliant. I have very, very strong feelings towards Scar. I think he's one of the best villains in all of Disney, and Be Prepared specifically is my favorite Disney villain song, so I was really worried to see how he would do with that, and I have to be totally honest, he excelled. He played this version of Scar that I think feels much more accurate to what we all think of as Scar, which is this sort of gaunt, weaker lion who couldn't beat Mufasa in a fair fight. He genuinely is surviving on scraps and has to use his mind over his strength, and I think that Chiwetel Ejiofor got that to come across so well, along with the visuals in the film, to make Scar seem that much more menacing and evil in this film. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner were of course amazing as Timon and Pumbaa. They're extremely, extremely funny throughout the film, and I think that's one big difference from this to the original, is this movie felt much funnier to me. Obviously, the original did have a decent amount of comedy in it, but this one definitely had comedy that wasn't just aimed at children. It was definitely trying to widen its audience's view of comedy and get laughs from adults and older people along with little kids, and definitely feel that full void of comedy, so that way no one felt like, oh, this is just stupid childhood comedy. There was something for everyone. John Oliver as Zazu, I think, is some of the best casting ever done in history, especially with his rise to popularity with Last Week Tonight. I think him playing sort of the courier for the king is a perfect role for him, and he was very funny in it. And then obviously James Earl Jones coming back to be Mufasa again. Of everyone in the original film, if anyone was to come back, it was very, very important that James Earl Jones Jones would be the one. His voice is so iconic and so legendary, and especially with how heavily associated it is to the role of Mufasa, it just meant the world, I think, to old fans like me who grew up with the original, and it means that much more to younger kids, because if they go back and watch the original now, if they've never seen it, they can have that attachment between the two films where no matter what, Mufasa is this great, resilient leader who has this powerful voice and leads by example, and I think that it's just such a great thing that James Earl Jones is still with us and was able to reprise that role. The music in the movie is all good. I wouldn't say any of it is something that I'm necessarily going to look up on Spotify to listen to the album for, but it was definitely enjoyable within the movie itself. Some of it felt much shorter than I remember it being in the original, but it was still all done extremely well. They got the point across with all of the songs, and I really liked specifically Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa when they would sing, because they added in a lot more of like riffing items to add more comedy to the songs. Now, I do have a couple of issues with the film, and they're relatively small. The first one is there are some visuals within the movie that are very iconic from the original that are not in this film. And some of them I can understand because this movie wants to have a more realistic tone, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's about talking animals, so it can't be that realistic, but it is more realistic. So I think some of those more crazy mythical moments from the original aren't in this one for a reason, but I think that the iconography is just so very, important to those in the original that it just felt like something was missing in some of those scenes when they took that out. And then alongside that, my other issue, which I would argue is my biggest issue with the movie, is Beyonce. Nala is one of the coolest Disney princesses, because she is technically considered a Disney princess, I think, to a lot of people. And I really like Nala in the original Lion King, and I really feel like they hired Beyonce just because she can sing and she could do the musical work related to the role, but her acting and voice work was very, very poorly done in my opinion, and did not work at all with anyone else in the film. She had a lot of really cheesy lines, which I know is not her fault, but her delivery didn't help make them less cheesy, and she was genuinely my least favorite thing about this entire film. I'm gonna give The Lion King a B. I'm gonna be honest with you, if you like the original Lion King, you will like this new Lion King, because it's The Lion King. They really didn't, remake the wheel with this one. They knew that they already had a winning product with the original Lion King, so they didn't add too much, they didn't take away too much, they kind of just stayed right down the middle. They updated a few things and they took a few things out, and overall what they made was a really great remake of The Lion King that I kind of think everyone will enjoy. I don't want to give it too high of a grade because it is still just a remake of The Lion King, but I think if you're a Disney fan, this movie is what we want remakes to be. It doesn't change too much, it modernizes the story a little, but it doesn't take away what everyone loved about the original. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of The Lion King, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.